take him anywhere. So much wrote in. So for people listening, Reid's making copies and drinking coffee sounds. So someone wrote in and said, what is the best way to react when someone confides with you about their sexual assault or rape story? What I'm currently doing is thanking them for sharing with me, ask them if it's okay to give them a hug, and ask them what they want to do next. Is that good? Is there any other follow-up? What am I doing wrong? I'm here with Reid Mahalka from ReidAboutSex.com.
I'm here with Cathy from the IntimacyDojo.com. That is pretty darn good.
Yeah. And I know more and more people are sharing now. It's a lot of courageous people out there sharing their experiences. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really thoughtful way to respond.
Yeah, I mean, there's if you really want to nerd out on this stuff, the basic is always, for me, my advice, take it or leave it, is thank you so much for sharing, or thank you so much for bringing this to me, like whatever that phrase is that works well for you. And then the question is, please tell me more if that is true for you. In this instance, the response of, what was it exactly?
Thank them for sharing, ask them if it's okay to give a hug, and ask what they want to do next.
Yeah, I would say ask them what they would like to do next is perfect. The hug part may or may not be the thing that they need. So you could be like, thank you so much for sharing. What would you like next? And what is also available is if you would like a hug, I'm here for hugging. So you might want to mix up the order, because some people get really vulnerable and then you're like, would you like a hug? And what they don't need is touch. And
some people don't.
And they might feel bad about saying no to you, because some people realize that kind of sharing is a lot for people. So now, are you asking if we can hug for me, or am I trying to make you feel better because I just shared with you? And that's the only thing where it would be really tricky, but that's a pretty darn awesome reply. And then if people say, again, this is all just my experience and opinion, if they say they don't need anything from you, then you can be like, well, if they say no to the hug or whatever, just be like, thank you so much for taking care of yourself, and thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a very respectful way to interact with them. It takes a lot of courage to share and a lot of trust to share those kinds of things with someone. So the fact that you're being gracious and acknowledging them for it and holding space for them is really powerful. It's very healing to have someone actually hear that something bad happened, and that have someone just be there with you.
And not want to fix it. The other thing that can be tricky about this is when people come to you and share this kind of stuff, asking them what support they need or what they would like to do next isn't, you need to check in and figure out how you are going to handle information and what you're going to need. Probably not from them, because I think all of us could imagine situations where we find out information of this nature, and you are enraged because maybe you know the person who is the culprit,
or you just care about the person that was harmed and you just want to,
and you're having feels. So also, and this goes for everybody who's watching this video, think about, maybe talk to some people, maybe talk to a professional about your thoughts on how you would handle your self-care needs if people brought this kind of information to you. And not everybody, but like, new phrase, everyone's wired differently around what they can handle and what they can't handle, what they need and what they don't need, and that can change from day to day to week to week.
One thing that might be useful to add in as well is to find out how much confidentiality they want around that if they didn't specify. Especially when someone's sharing something that's really vulnerable, they may just assume that not to share. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people out there with the Me Too. More people are sharing things. It may not be as confidential. Or if you need support for someone in your community, like, how do you get that without sharing? You don't want to share unless you know it's okay to share.
Yeah, and this is where, thank you for bringing that up. This is where it gets a little bit tricky when people ask you, hey, may I tell you something? And you don't have in your community built-in ways of assessing, what what do you do with that information? So like people will come to me and be like, I need to talk to you about somebody. And I'm like, okay, I reserve the right to ask if I can, if I need help to handle something. Like, so I don't know what you're about to share. I want to understand what kind of confidentiality level do you need on this? And if it's about somebody that I know and is in my community, and I think your information puts other people at danger, I want you to figure out what I'm allowed to do with that so that I can know what I'm agreeing to. For me, as somebody who's professionally coaches people and works with people, I get paid to keep secrets, especially secrets inside of my community, because that's sometimes a lot of emotional work for me to know things, whether they're true or not, they're usually true, know things and then have to pretend to others like I don't know things. So again, for you with your friends, this is very different.
But if someone reported to you, for example, they'd been sexually assaulted by someone, but they didn't want you to, someone in the community, and they wanted to keep it confidential, that would be a really tough place to be because you know that person might be doing that to other people.
Yeah, and again, like now but I'm also dealing with this kind of stuff as a professional, so I have resources and other people I can talk to, and I have protocols and ideas on what I would need to do next that feels good for me. So what I do is I check in with people beforehand and say, if this is a professional thing, or it bleeds into my professional world, I reserve the right to not stay confidential. I will be respectful and I will be as appropriate as I can, but are you okay with sharing this confidential information with me if I deem it important to take action? And that's a layered conversation that you just can't have with, your friend who's not a nerd about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying it's tricky. But the checking in about confidentiality is really, really useful and important. And sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I can totally keep that secret. And your mileage may vary.
Yeah. We hope this helped, and you're doing a great job. I love how caring and concerned you are. So I think you'd be a great person to talk to. Thanks for writing in.
Yep.